All right, folks, we are going to jump right to it this morning. In today's world, there's plenty of excuses that you can make. There's barriers and obstacles, whether it's in the business world, the sports world, personal lives. There's plenty of barriers and obstacles that we can all use as excuses. And we can either find ways to keep working and keep going, or we can just, settle for sitting around and being average. And this is something that I've been personally thinking about a lot recently, is that I feel like there's a lot of people who are at least as focused on just keeping their job as they are on doing a great job. And I think that we need to really shift our focus to just, I'm just going to do a great job, and whatever happens is going to happen, but I'm going to do a great job every single day in my career, in my life, whatever it might be, and things are going to work out just fine if I do that. And our guest speaker today, Edniesha Curry, at the Legends, we tried to hire her once upon a time. We failed. We were unsuccessful in that bid. But she is, Edniesha, correct me if I'm wrong, you're the only female coach on the men's side of Division I men's basketball, at least to my knowledge.
Yes.
Edniesha is somebody who, has never, in all of my experiences with her, she's never just accepted average. She's kept pursuing being great at her craft. And frankly, and I mean this, it's never been, I want to be a great female coach. It's, I want to be a great coach. And she is absolutely that. She's, if you want to talk about glass ceilings, we'll let Brittany ask the question. I don't know if Edniesha's been worried about a glass ceiling or if she just has really stayed focused on that task. But it gives me great pleasure to welcome Edniesha Curry to our Pursuing Excellence Breakfast. And I'm going to, kill my video and let the two of you take it away.
Thank you.
Thanks, Malcolm. So Malcolm, for once, didn't take any of my questions in his intro. Normally he starts covering stuff and I'm like, wait a second, I was going to ask about that. He didn't even talk about your WNBA career, your playing career. You've had a very successful career. We'll jump right into it. You retired at a young age, though. And so how had you prepared yourself for life after basketball, and why was that important to you?
Just like in my coaching, I always teach the players that eventually the air goes out of the ball for everyone, whether it's through injury or retirement or you're just burnt out from the game. Eventually, you have to quit. So with that in mind, while I was playing overseas, around 26, I decided to pursue my master's in business administration and project management. So I started my process kind of early, just because I knew you can't play basketball forever as a player. So that's kind of how I started my transition away from the game.
And you had a very successful college career. You went on to play at Oregon after winning tons of awards. People tend to think that that translates, successful college career straight into easy success afterwards, an easy transition to coaching if that's the route you want to go. But that wasn't the case for you. What did your journey teach you?
Well, you know what? It taught me that you have to work your ass off. Definitely that. It wasn't an easy transition for me. And that's, the pitfalls of playing. And maybe that's why I was like, let me figure out, get more education, because the experience I had was, in the eyes of everybody else, I was just a basketball player. So I had to learn to break down all of my skills that I learned traveling around the world as a basketball player into micro skills to show people on a resume that I was more than a person, just playing basketball. As they say now, I was more than an athlete. And that took some time, like really breaking down all of the skills, because I didn't even realize it. And, again, I leaned on a coach. I hired someone to help me build out that resume based on my playing career.
Awesome. And coaching, I think this puts it lightly from what you told me. Coaching wasn't your first career choice. So how did you end up on that path?
A coach, literally. It was probably my college coach. You know, you never stop needing a coach in life, ever. You always have to have a coach to kind of guide your career. And I literally did not want to coach at all, Brittany. I fought it. I mean, I might have been 24, between the age of 24 and 27. And my college coach, who I was helping with AAU in Oregon, Michael Abraham, said, you were born a coach. And I remember at the time he was like, I can get you a D1 job right now. You can be an assistant coach. You know, you have all the connections. You'll have a great career. And I was like, dude, you're crazy. I don't want to do this. I don't want to deal with a 17-year-old version of Edniesha Curry. I'm being honest. It's called growth. It took me a while. And that was kind of like my foundation. But slowly, I just started getting really good at it. And it was natural. And the competitive, athletic ego side came out because I was like, I'm like really not trying. And I'm really, really good and better than all the other coaches who are like really, really trying. So it came this like mental game for me to just kind of be the best. And I just slowly were like, I'm really good at it. And it kind of was like, you know, when your grandmother and, you know, my elders say, you know, purpose, you know, your purpose follows you. You can't ever run away from your purpose. And no matter what I did, I could not run away from it. It was just pulling and calling me back. So I embraced it, and, you know, I am where I am because of it.
I forgot. So you said something just then that I, again, wanted to take notes on. So I forgot to tell everyone, get your notepads ready, because we were talking the other day. I took like 4 pages of notes on what she was saying. No questions, just like writing down quotes like crazy. So you had mentioned you took a detour into corporate for a little while. And I think it's important that sometimes we learn the best lessons from what we don't want to do. So what did your time at Adidas teach you?
That I'm definitely not a sit at office person. I didn't enjoy it. I love my job. I work with great people in, you know, basketball. I was still a part of basketball, doing things for WNBA at the time. It was the D League for the NBA and, you know, the NBA. But I started missing the connection that I had with people and the impact and influence I had with people every day, especially kids. And that's when I was like, okay, time to move. And I just jumped. Again, I just jumped, finished my time, and was like, okay, I want to be a coach now. And then that's when the real adversity, the real toughness, perseverance, belief, faith kicked in.
Were getting no's, you're trying to get into coaching. You told me you got like 10 years worth of no's before the first yes. How did you use those to get to where you are?
Wow. You know, it was a struggle. You know, at times I felt like I made a mistake. I was like, man, maybe I should go back, because I could have easily just went back into corporate, but it wasn't where my heart was. It wasn't, my gut was saying, just stick it out, figure it out. So in the process of trying to get jobs in women's college basketball, it was 10 years and no. It was a hard lesson for me. It was tough because I couldn't understand, you know, like you said, you have this stellar career, you built a stellar reputation as a player, and you kind of think, well, the easiest path is to transition right into coach. You've played at the highest levels. It should be easy, you know, oh, automatic, yes. But it wasn't for me. And instead of beating myself down and beating down doors, I opened my box and I opened my mindset, and I decided to look globally for jobs. And that led me to leaving America again, and family, which was hard, and going to Israel to coach and start my coaching career internationally.
That time in Israel, that was about so much more than basketball. Tell us about what you were doing over there.
Well, I was working for an international group, nonprofit group called Peace Players, and we used the game of basketball to bring Arab and Jewish kids together, to change the mindset of the younger generations of the historical hate, racism, and all the things that goes on between the Jewish community and the Arab community. So it was really cool, um, building leadership plans, working with the communities, building projects for the mothers, which was my favorite project. The mothers got excited when I was coaching their kids, and they wanted to get in shape, and they were like, could you teach us basketball? That was an amazing project for me, time of my life. And it's something that I use now a lot with coaching, because we are dealing with different people, different age brackets, and, finding that common goal for everyone and keeping everybody focused on that while letting everybody be their authentic self and is important. And I learned that a lot working with Peace Players.
Absolutely. You told me, I think the exact quote, too often we're wasting time trying to beat down doors that won't ever open for us. And so that's what took you over to Israel. What does that quote mean to you, and how did you use that to grow?
For me, I think sometimes, you just accept no's. I didn't accept them. I was like, okay, I didn't, backtrack. Everybody that told me no in America, every single coach, program, I called them back. I emailed, I basically hunted them down and said, why am I not good enough? And I turned that into skill sets where I became my self-learner, a person that was going to learn everything possible so you couldn't tell me no. And that's what I did. And instead of taking the no's and accepting what people were telling me to accept, at that time they were just saying, get a job, at home, build your network, you need to talk to more people, and you need to know more people. And I knew me, I wasn't built for that. I wanted to work, and and I knew I had a skill set that programs and kids and coaches needed, and I wasn't going to put that on the back burner for everybody else. And that quote for me is figuring out your own path. A lot of times I quote, saying, own your journey, own your story. And I wanted to own my story, my authentic self, and be my authentic self. And doing that, I chose my own path. I went and opened doors for myself instead of waiting for people to open the doors for me.
You're too humble to say it like this, but you did it the hard way, basically. Worked harder than everyone else, overseas. You built a global reputation for yourself, which is just crazy to me. That's across cultures with language barriers. You talked about having to have translators. From Israel, you went to China, right?
Yes.
What would you say was the key to somehow building this, literally a global reputation?
Well, one of them is being humble. I am that to a fault. But it was just learning. I never go into any situation, working with anybody feeling like I know more. I go in wanting to learn more. And I think that attracts people to me. And that's how it was in China. When I went to China, literally, again, it was by accident that I got the job. A friend of mine said, I was in transition. I had like a month break and, a free trip to China. I was like, I never went, and a father said, hey, I need someone to train my son. my friend calls me and said, do you want to go to China for a couple of weeks and train a kid? And I was like, sure, okay, China again, I've never been, free trip, passport stamps. Okay. And while I was there, this father was taking me around to meet people, sons of his coaches, family friends that were all in basketball. And when my time was up there, they had an opening to develop a junior women's pro team, and they hired me. And again, owner didn't speak English, general manager didn't speak English, none of the players that on the team had spoken any English. I had one translator at the time, was Jeff, and he was the only one that spoke English. So that experience was as much adversity as I could handle, but it was awesome because it was like something that I got to build from ground up. Like we had one player when we started the team, and I had to get at least 18 girls. So traveling around all the provinces in China and recruiting and, eating things that I didn't even know what they were, just, I just remember my translator sometime, he was like, drink, he would like eat, take a shot of sake, eat. And I'm like, yo, it's like 12 o'clock, it's 1 o'clock. He's like, it's the only way you're going to get through it, but we have to do it because it's business. And I was like, all right, my only rule was, I wouldn't eat anything that was moving. But it was fun.
After that, recruiting in the States had to be a little bit easier.
Oh yeah, recruiting in the States was way easier than that. I mean, going from buses, we were on buses and trains for 15 hours. Like we were going all the way, I would, one day be in Shanxi, the next 3 hours, the owner would want me to be in Beijing. Then after that, he would be like, go to Shanghai, and then like all the other like little cities in China that I had to go to and find these basketball schools it was interesting to say the least.
A lot of discovery there.
Yes, a lot.
So you used that time though to learn lessons that you probably wouldn't have learned here, definitely wouldn't have learned here. And so after all that, you got a call for a job back stateside at University of Maine, looking for all the things that you had been told in the past that you weren't good enough at. So what was different this time?
Wow. Different was I did have a lot of more experience on my resume, from Israel to China and finishing up in Vietnam. So when I got that call, it was like, wow, she's built all of these basketball programs in all these countries. And I had more stories, more experience to kind of communicate my skill sets instead of it being a transition from player to coach. And when I got the call, I had a Skype with Coach Barron. I guess he liked me. He was looking for a player development coach, someone who knows how to build players up, scouting and video, which I did. And I'm flying from Vietnam, Ho Chi Minh City, to Bangor, Maine, which I knew nothing about or knew even existed at the time. I did no research. I didn't look up anything. It was a job. It was Division I. I get to come home. I said yes.
Big leap of faith.
Yes.
You mentioned both in talking about Coach Barron and yourself the importance of trusting your gut. Why is that so important?
For me, I always wanted to live and learn with the decisions I made in life. Not necessarily based on someone guiding me or telling me you should take this job or you should reach out to this person. I do take that communication, but I always go back to me and how I feel and my gut feeling and, the decisions I've made, the risks that I've taken. most of the people in my circle, there no way, I love them to death, but they wouldn't have taken those risks at all. Most of the time they call me crazy, because I do. Like, if my gut, it's literally like on Olivia Pope, her gut scandal, if my gut is bad, I'm just like, no, like instantly. And sometimes not even with a plan. I'm just like, this is not where I'm supposed to be.
I love it. Love that. And you said Coach Barron you guys, that process moved pretty quickly. The first time y'all had never met in person, you Skyped, and a week later you were literally on a plane. How did that happen? Explain that.
Luck and relationships through hard work. Really, I built a relationship over the years with Gannon Baker, and Gannon is good friends with Coach Barron that I did not know. And Coach Barron basically reached out to him and said, hey, I need someone. Do you know? And Gannon said, hey, I got someone. Let me give her a call. And he shot me an email. I said, sure, I'll take the interview. Me and Coach Barron got on the phone with who was our associate head coach at the time, Amy Vachon. We did one Skype, probably about an hour and a half. He got off and said, hey, I'll get back to you. The next day, he Skypes, says, the job is yours if you want it. And then all of a sudden, I'm on a 22-hour flight from Vietnam into the States, and up to Bangor, Maine, and in his house in front of our summer fundraiser, Lobster Fest. That literally how it was. And I pulled up, airport, he had my Red Bull in hand. Everyone knows I love those. And dropped me off right in front of the news. And that's how our story started.
That's awesome. So you guys were working at Maine in the women's program.
Yes.
In your second year, that time's cut short. Coach had some medical issues, and so you end up leaving Maine, after a little bit, decide to take a year off. What did you learn during that time and in the new role that you took over?
Well, when I transitioned, again, going with my gut, I did have a job. I got hired at a university in Florida. And about a week on the job, something was not right. My father had just got diagnosed with cancer. I was missing him, the travel, etc. And I was honest, and I tell everybody, before you ruin a relationship in this business, just be honest. And I was honest with Coach. I walked into her office and I said, this is just not right. This is not the right time. She respected that. I wasn't going to be on the job with her, not really wanting to be there, and I left with no plan. I didn't have a job. I was like, okay, I have my savings is about to be screwed for the next 6 months. I'll figure it out. It's life. And I end up being a high school teacher, teaching health and English at Atlanta Classical in Atlanta, a charter school, and an athletic director for the women's side, and a happy middle school and high school coach. It was a time of my life. Like, I enjoyed it. I was around kids all day. I was impacting them in the classroom and in the community and on the court, working with everybody, which was fun to me. I realized in my time off that I really like mentoring other people. I like growing other people. And in that athletic director role, I got to mentor other coaches and lead other people, which was fun. But then another friend calls me. I have great friends, by the way. Like, they're always looking out for me. Rusha Brown, she's a former WNBA player. She works for the LA Sparks now. Calls me and said, hey, the NBA assistant coaches program has this program for former WNBA and NBA players. You should throw your name in the hat. So I was like, okay, gives me information. I just send my resume over. No idea that they were actually going to call me back. And they called me back. I almost forgot about the program because it had been a while, and I was like, oh, whatever, because it was just like, you throw your name in and if they pick it or not. And they called me back. They said you made the program and et cetera, et cetera. So I go to New York, do the orientation. And I'm like, okay, this is really real. Okay. All right. Back to elite coaching. And all of a sudden I'm at the draft combine coaching next to Coach Pat Delaney, who's with Orlando Magic now, and Jerry Stackhouse, who was a championship coach with the 905 team up in Toronto, and now he's at Vanderbilt. So I was like, okay, is this real? But again, it was kind of going with my gut.
Awesome. And to go, you've been at every level of the sport. At every level of the sport within like a 6-month period there, I think.
Yes, every level in a 6-month period. It was surreal. It really was.
And then amidst that, Coach Barron goes back to Maine. I think that the story of how you two connected is really cool, how you ended up with that job. I'll let you tell that story, but talk about that, the relationship that you two had and how that brought you back together, and then what it was like starting in your current role.
Wow. Me and Coach Barron, throughout our time off, we always check on each other's family. And Coach Barron is very smart. I did started noticing that he was communicating with me a little more. Hey, you're coaching again, I see, and I was like, okay, yeah, coach. Like, I didn't say I didn't want to ever coach again. I just took a little break, detour. And he got the job, and I just sent him, hey, coach, proud of you. Glad you're healthy. Glad you're coaching again. Just our normal little text. He hits me with his usual thumbs up emoji. Literally, this is what I get. I didn't get a long paragraph. I got out of this. And the next day he calls me and he's talking and he was like, do you want to coach with me again? And I was like, yeah, shoot. Yeah. Because I have a great relationship with him and I really do enjoy coaching with him. And that's how I got hired to be a men's coach. It literally was the extent of the interview process. We didn't talk about me being a trailblazer, making history, being the only woman. It literally was, okay, my stuff. You're familiar with me as a coach, you know my playbook, my defensive playbook, me, and okay, let's get to work.
So Malcolm mentioned glass ceiling, but there wasn't really talk about the glass ceiling. How did that impact? Was that part of your decision? Did you even think about that throughout the process?
No, not at all. It didn't dawn on me until I actually said yes. And then Coach Barron maybe, shot a text and was like, hey, we don't want to tell people too early because, the media is going to catch on and people are going to start talking about you being, the only woman coaching Division I men's basketball. Then I was like, because to me, I'm a coach. Like, I just coached in the combine. I've been coaching little boys and girls all my life. Like, I'm just like, I'm a coach. I don't see the gender. And I was like, oh, okay. And the first person I was thinking about was my dad. I was like, okay, I definitely can't tell him because he will put everything on Facebook. And it was like, wow, is this really a big deal? Like, I had to tell myself, is this really a big deal? Because for me, it was just doing something that I love. But it didn't hit like, okay, people are going to be looking up to me now in a different light. Like, I was just like doing what I love with a person that I really enjoy working with.
And so the team, everybody was very welcoming to you. There wasn't like this distance for you. You've been coaching men all your life, but for them, this was kind of a new thing. But it sounds like they were very, very welcoming, and that made the transition pretty easy. But how have you, especially as a female coaching a men's team, how have you built that rapport both with your players and staff and with, outside resources?
For me, it's always been the work. I've put in the work. I refuse to be outworked. I'm gonna go above and beyond in my job, for my players, for my head coach, but most importantly for myself. Um, you only have a glass ceiling in life when you stop growing and when you stop learning. And like I said, I go into every situation learning, and I was excited when I went back to Maine. Some of the men on the team were excited to have me back because they knew me when I was on the women's side. So it was a gap of 2 years, 1 to 2 years of juniors and seniors who had already knew me and already had built a rapport and relationship with me off the court when I was on the women's side. And they knew how I worked. They saw it on the women's side and the success we had there. So they were excited to be like, oh man, you're going to be teaching me. You're going to be working me out. They were like, you're going to be doing the same type of workouts you did with Siggy. She was all conference, Liz, like all these players that they really respected on the women's side. They were excited to have their winning coach come and be on their side, on the men's side. So it was really consistency with the work, consistency with the communication, and just relationships. I didn't go in trying to be different because I'm coaching men now. Like I said, it's very important to stay authentic. I didn't have any gender bias, like, okay, now I'm coaching men, I have to be like this, they act different. I went in like, these are 18 to 25-year-old young people who maturity level is going to be different. And I have to learn them. And that was the most important. And they respected that.
And I think that's something I definitely hear a lot from you. You don't talk a lot about your credentials. You don't mention, I was this superstar player. You never talk about that. You don't talk about your MBA, assistant coaching program. You don't really talk much about that either. And it's more so about the work that you put into things, the work you put into your relationships and into yourself. That's incredible to me. So I have to quote another thing that you said to me, because again, I just thought this was incredible. That you said we miss opportunities to grow and go where we want to go because we are so worried about titles and logos. And your journey's taken you to, like we said, every level of the sport, overseas and back. What would you say has been your most impactful position?
Wow. Whoa. They all been very impactful because they've all been different. When I take my lessons from Israel, I was using basketball to create change for the world, to create change for people, to change the mindset of 100 years of hate, to teach, young people, young Jewish and Arab kids that, just because our ancestors and grandmothers and things like that, dealt with that based on what happened in the past, we don't have to. We can change it. And it's something that I tell our young people now, dealing with all the civil unrest and social injustice we're dealing with now, we can make the change. It's hard work. So that probably is the most impactful because it was using basketball to change the world and change communities and I go back like every other year, and it's beautiful now to see more Arab and Jewish kids working together, playing basketball together, coaching together, on the same teams together. That's powerful. That gives me, hope. But it was a lot of work, and when it's where I learned to be honest with my communication and be authentic, and not be afraid, because that was the only way we were going to break through the pain and the barriers, to see that next generation really grow from the hurt of the past, because it does affect you.
Absolutely. Back to your current position, you guys have had to, throughout this pandemic, keep your players engaged, finding ways to make sure that everybody's still on the same page, we're still working towards the same goal, and there's so much uncertainty. And I think that translates really well into the business world. We, as and the folks listening, are business leaders, business owners. How have you guys managed to keep your players engaged? And what are some tips that you can give to the business owners to lead their team through these tough times?
Well, we took a back seat to basketball, because we felt that basketball is always in the front. It's the forefront, basketball, practice, practice, practice. And we said, this is a time that we all can get better. The coaching staff, the players. So we took the leadership approach. We brought in speakers, every Monday, to talk about different things, talk about adversity, talk about what faith looks like, what perseverance, talk about having difficult conversations about what's going on right now in America, and how do we communicate through difference, and how we're really going to come together, and how that's going to build us up from a team. And everybody got to share their honest opinion about their experience, and I think that has grown us more as a team in a program than if I was sending out Zoom calls and having Zoom calls talking about, hey, how many jump shots did you do? We're going to have plenty, believe me, we're going to have plenty of time to practice before we start. So it allowed us to show a different side of us. And I think sometimes in business and coaching, you're on that same path that the people around you that work with you only see one side of you. And this time away allowed our players to see the leadership side of all of us, the other things that we're really engaged in the community. For me, I'm on the board for Coaches for Change. I'm very vocal about social injustice for everyone, education. And the players were like, wow, like we have a coach now that we can have these hard conversations with, and it was good, giving them internships and virtual internships and things like that to grow them. I think when you're dealing with business and sports, sometimes you forget, I would say, to feed the plants, that are around you. You're so busy on one goal, you forget to feed, everyone. And, as everyone starts growing, the plant becomes more powerful. And we did a great job as a program. Coach Barron really focused on the people aspect this off season.
That's awesome and great advice. And that translates so well into businesses, I think, too. Speaking of your head coach, he's kind of given you in this role freedom to kind of lead this team that you're with, but at the same time, flexibility to grow outside of this team. And you've still been doing some work with the assistant coaches program. How much of an influence has that been and his leadership been on your success and development?
It's definitely been a huge influence. I mean, to have someone that has no ego, has no fear, really fear of losing me. I think a lot of leaders prevent their people from growing because they fear losing them. You know, everybody wants to work with somebody that's really good and gets it, and they have this chemistry. But sooner or later, that person has to grow and move on. And Coach Barron allows me to do that with no fear at all, or no, he doesn't hesitate at all. Like last summer, I spent all of June and July in between off-season workouts in the summer and, you know, spending time with the San Antonio Spurs in summer league, doing draft workouts with the Minnesota Timberwolves also. But the way Coach Barron looks at it is I'm getting a stronger assistant coach who is going to make me better too, and make our program better, and make, you know, our players better. And that's how I'm allowed to bring new resources and innovation and ideas to our coaches table, to our players, that just makes us all better. You know, you only can grow so much if, you know, you don't decide to open up your box. I talk about that a lot. I tell everybody, try to live outside of your box, jump out of your box to bring more tools inside, because eventually you're just going to be good, you know, and you're going to be bored.
I want to ask like the typical, what's one leadership lesson that you have or something like that, but I feel like we can't narrow it down considering my 4 pages of notes. So let's talk a little bit more. Last question that I have. Talk about the risks that you've taken. You've done a lot of taking risks, betting on yourself. What was the biggest one, and how did that pay off for you?
Wow, the biggest one was walking away from coaching college basketball. I mean, I got a lot of calls that said, okay, you wanted this. It took you 10 years to get in. You're at a successful program that wins, and you just walk away. And for me, I felt like I wasn't getting enough growth. I needed more. And transitioning into that athletic director role, that leadership role, that was preparing me one day for being a head coach. I mean, I learned so much. I had to manage a staff. I had to do work orders and schedules. You know, I'm helping schedule 7 or 8 leagues and teams. It was a skill set that I needed. It just came in a different, you know, fashion. But that risk really, if I didn't take that risk, I wouldn't be a men's basketball coach right now. Because I never, throughout my journey, Brittany, I never said I wanted to be a men's coach or this coach or that level or whatever. I just wanted to do what I love, which is coach, and grow and be at a place and work with people that I'm always growing. And I happened to end up taking this men's route, which I absolutely love and enjoy.
I think it's awesome because you did talk so much about don't equate success with titles, and yet here you are. I mean, just incredible title, incredible position, and, you know, leading the way for women in sports, really. So that's awesome.
Thank you.
Coach Curry, we got a few other questions that have come in, and you've answered a lot of them. But one person here says you've got a fearless disposition. And to what would you attribute that, you know, the development of that disposition?
You know, I have to, you know, give honor to my father. He was, you know, remarkable. My best friend, my hero, everything to me. And he never told me no. I don't know what it means not to be able to go out and try. You know, all he asked was, whatever you want to do, I'm going to support you. I'll give you whatever resources, coaches, but go out and be your best. So I knew whatever route I was going to take, that was always in my mind. Just go out and give it your all and then figure it out later. I didn't calculate, okay, I'm good enough and then go after something. I just went out, and, you know, it didn't matter. You know, it was a reason why, you know, I played like 5 sports in high school. I just literally came home and said, Dad, sign this. I want to play this. Okay. You know, let's go for it. And, you know, it's fun. You know, I think fearlessness for me is fun. You know, it's being free. It's not holding back. It's really going after your dreams and, you know, just focused on it and having fun.
That's good advice for anything. Another one here that came in, you know, you've been on both the proverbial men's side of college basketball and the women's side, and there are advantages and disadvantages to both, right? How often are you able to make others recognize what might be lacking in support on the women's side to help get that same support as is reflected on the men's side in certain programs?
You know what? It's go out. I think for me, I never wait for people to support me, and that's the fearlessness in me. Go out. Tell people about how great your program is. Tell people how great you are. Tell people how great your coaches are. You know, be innovative, be different. Don't try to do what everybody else is doing. You know, people know about me now because I work. People know the value of my work. You know, I understand that there's women's basketball programs and men's basketball programs that get different treatment. You know, I'm the opposite. You know, on the men's side at Maine, we're the exact opposite. The women's program is this. They get 5,000 fans. They got championships. They got banners. We're the opposite. And we're working towards, okay, could you guys come to our game? We have this, we're rebuilding, but it's a lot of work. It's me on the other side of campus talking to the academic side, talking to the fraternities, the sororities. It's really getting people to come to our practices and see us. And, you know, in the end, people support winners. You know, keep winning, keep working towards that, and eventually you'll get the support you need. But don't get down on it. I think it gets frustrating. A lot of people get down, especially when we're dealing with the gender bias. It may be, you know, that's going to be there. But one thing, you know, that can't ever be there is your work ethic based on that.
It's good stuff. One more question. This has been fantastic. This one might be a little bit more general, but you've broken a lot of barriers, and you're certainly a leader in college basketball. I won't say men's college basketball or women's college basketball. You're a leader in college basketball. What piece of advice would you give to those in our room here who may want to break through some barriers that stand in their way?
Wow. Be a chameleon.
Okay.
Be a chameleon. Be able to change in whatever room you step in, and when you step in that room and you know you put on that cape, it may be your business suit, it may be your sweatsuit, whatever it is, own it. I think a lot of people are not able to do that. And the successful people in business and sport are able to move from room to room and still show their authentic self to everyone, still show their greatness, their fearlessness, and lead. I mean, for me, that's the way I've been able to move in every room, being a chameleon, being adaptable, and be willing to learn. Don't be stubborn. You know, that's why I don't have the 5 keys to leadership, because those 5 keys may not work in this room or that room. It's really learning, not being stubborn, taking advice from the janitor as well as you take from the CEO. You know, really be able to learn and build with people in whatever room you slide into.
That's great stuff. Thank you very much, Coach Curry. If you look there in the chat, I think we've gotten almost all the questions. If you do want to participate in the networking here afterwards, the link is there, copy and paste that. And, you know, the thing that I walk away from here is we can all be a little more fearless, and we all need to go out and be our best. You know, Coach Curry keeps talking about it of, you know, she didn't pay attention to these barriers. She just really focused in on being her best every single day and getting better every single day. And I think, especially in today's environment, that is, you know, very telling. We can all make excuses and justify why we are or not going to do certain things, when really I think the question just boils down to, let's go be our best. Let's, from a business standpoint, let's grow our business. From a coaching standpoint, let's get better at being coaches. From a player standpoint, let's just be better people on the court, off the court, all of the above. But let's all of us go out and be our best today, this week, and this month. Coach Curry, thank you so much. Brittany, thank you very much. And we'll see those who want to join in the networking room. Talk to you later. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's Red Bulls for you, Coach Curry.
Yeah, I love it.
We've got a whole fridge of
Take
them,
care.
so stop by anytime.
Yes, love it. Thank you, guys.
Take care.
Thank you.